If you have steel wheels with the hubcaps, you'll have to remove these lug nut covers first with a 19mm socket. And now this cover hubcap comes off. Now remove these 5 lug nuts, also with a 19mm socket, and then we'll take the wheel off. I'm going to start by removing the ball joint with a 15mm socket here, and you actually have to hold the 15mm nut on the other side. Sometimes these bolts are seized in here. This one's hopefully not. There we go. Remove the nut and pull the bolt through. At this point, sometimes you have to hammer it, but for me, I was able to just pry it out. Now let's move on to removing these 2 front bolts with a 15mm socket. There's one. Make sure you take out this spacer. I guess we'll wait, it's stuck in here. But just remember that there is one there. And then there's this other bolt here. Take this one out as well. At this point, you can take out these spacers and keep in mind in which direction they go. They basically swoop up like this to protect this bushing from any road debris that might make its way in here. With a 21mm socket, let's remove this big bolt at the back here, and this is the last thing holding the control arm in place. Now you can pull the control arm out. There we go. This bushing was clearly bad, but here's your old control arm. Here's your new control arm. You want to start it on the rear first, and it's not always easy to kind of maneuver it into place there, but just try to find the right angle. Eventually it'll slide in, and the tricky part is you actually have to line it all up so that it can fall into place. But don't be afraid to use a hammer if you have to, or you can just kind of wiggle it. Okay, so the bottom lined up. Let's grab the bolt. And to line up this bolt, there's a trick. Here's a trick that you can use. Put your socket on with an extension. You can use this kind of as a pry tool to slide the bolt in. Then you can thread it on at the same time. And as you can see, it started onto the threads just fine. So that's exactly what you want. I'm going to run it down. Not tight yet, but I will run it down so it can stay in there. Okay, we'll come back to this. At the front, you had these little spacers. They have to slide over the control arm here, just like that. And now put your bolts through. Now let's snug these up. I'm going to do them a little bit at a time. That way I make sure that this gets tightened up properly. And let's go back to this one. All right, now let's torque them all. 74 foot-pounds for this, but then it's another 180 degrees. And 180 degrees, which is half a turn. There we go. 41 foot-pounds for the smaller ones. Perfect. I'm just going to spray this ball joint with some anti-seize. That way it's, well, not going to seize in the knuckle, which happens often. Now grab your ball joint, line it up with approximately where it goes into the knuckle. Take your hammer. Sometimes these brand new ball joints are kind of hard to move. They're stiff, so give it a couple loving bonks with your rubber mallet. Don't use a steel hammer. And definitely, even if you use a rubber mallet, don't hammer on the middle of the ball joint because that's going to ruin the inside of it. Perfect. Now when you push this ball joint in, make sure that the slot on the ball joint stud is lined up. So right now it's not. I have to go a little bit higher. And you'll notice how it'll line up so that I can put the bolt through. Right there is perfect, so let's get the bolt. slide it through. Again, if it doesn't slide through, it's probably because the ball joint's too far up or too far down. Start the nut on, let's snug it up, and then torque it to 37 foot-pounds. Okay, hold the nut side and tighten up the bolt. So to fully tighten this, we're going to go to 37 foot-pounds, and then we have to remove or release the bolt 3/4 of a turn, and then go to 37 again, and then add an additional 30 degrees. So let's do that. And that's 37. Now I have to release the bolt 3/4 of a turn. That's a quarter. Oopsies. Another quarter. And that's 3/4. Now go back to 37. Okay, that's 37, and now 30 degrees. 30 degrees. Right there. Let's get the wheel back on. Start on all 5 of your lug nuts. We'll bottom them out and torque them to 100 foot-pounds. Torque these to 100 foot-pounds. Don't forget about your hubcap. If you have one, you want to line up this cutout with the valve stem. So just like that. And then tighten up these plastic caps. That's what secures your hubcap on. Make sure those are nice and tight on there. Otherwise your hubcap will go flying.